Welcome to The Grand Balance, a weekly podcast hosted by two working grandmas navigating the beautiful chaos of work and family. As mentioned on the previous podcast, Sharon and I are first-time grandmas, and we have a lot to learn from all of you experienced grandmas out there. So I'm thrilled to introduce our first interviewed guest today, a grandmother of 8. Yes, I said 8. Laura Young-Shehata. Thank you, Laura, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah. In episode 3, where we discuss friendships, I mentioned how many of the friendships have been formed with my clients, and Laura is one of those friendships. Not only is she an inspirational grandmother, but a top woman executive in her field. She has thrived over the last 25 years in healthcare technology and is frankly kicking ass in the industry, currently serving as an executive for the 3rd largest health system in the country, responsible for technology systems across 139 hospitals. The one thing that I love about Laura is that even in business, she focuses on the human side of herself and others. If you've watched any of her presentations, she starts out by introducing herself as a wife, mother, grandmother, daughter, sister, and friend. She is so real and genuine and truly understands the value of family and friendships, and I'm so honored that she's joining us today. Laura, before we dive into more detail about working grandma questions, is there anything you want to share about yourself that the audience should know about you?
You know, first of all, Angela, like you said that, I'm like, oh, she's cool. I want to be her friend. So thanks for that intro. No, I think you did a great job introducing. I come from a big family. I had kids young, they had kids young. And one of the things that I just to share on that kind of the overall grandma front, I think being who we are and at this time in our career in our lives, the thing that I do very different now than I did when I was an up and coming mom is speak about being a wife, mother, and grandma. Because I think I look at these other young women or women who we've hid that in the past. So I'm pretty open and vocal about that. I mean, even as I was telling you earlier about this, all hands with the 1,500 people, and I'm out there telling people, look, I'm a grandma. And so I think that's one thing that just as you talked to that is different than something I did 20 years ago in my career.
Did you not do it because you thought it was discouraged?
Yeah, Sharon, I think so. It's interesting. I have a fantastic leader right now. Her name is Sally. She's got 5 children, and we both kind of talked about that where we felt like we needed to. I mean, whether that's hide that under a bushel or whatever that is, but I think it's important that people know we're real. Like, look, I mean, like I said, I'm transparent, and here's where it is. I'm real, and it's all work, no play makes a really boring human. So.
Agreed.
Well, let's dive into some questions. Now, each of these could be its own episode by themselves. So we're hoping to spend a little bit time on each of them. But hey, if we end up diving in deep on one, let's just go for it. From what I understand, you have grandchildren nearby and far. So my first question is, what challenges has this caused in developing relationships with each of your grandchildren? And do you have any tips for any of those other grandmothers out there living afar?
Oh, I love that question. So Angela, here's the deal. I've really focused on the quality versus the quantity. For a long time, my grandchildren all lived within a 3-mile radius. And that's when I had 4 of them. And we had the tradition of donuts every Sunday and they'd spend the night. And I had the opportunity to move to California from Arizona. And there was lots of tears around leaving. But I think FaceTime is fantastic. In fact, my Arizona granddaughter, she uses her tablet and calls me probably 2 or 3 times a day. And I know when she's at a sitter's house, because I'll be like, I gotta go. And so, and in fact, my coworkers know when she calls. I think the other really important thing about being near and far is understanding their love languages. And so I'm a big proponent of love languages. So knowing, gifts, quality time, service, touch, or words of affirmation. And to be honest with you, the Arizona grandsons, I don't get a lot of time with them when I'm not around them, but when I'm with them, we're all in and I'm playing on the ground, on the floor, but it's knowing what motivates each one of them. Some get more time than others. And that just is kind of based on what zip code I happen to be in.
I love that. What's your love language, Laura?
Oh, mine is time. Mine is time. And in fact, when my daughter, my 21-year-old daughter who doesn't have any kids yet. She just has a grand dog, but her love language is gifts. And so my husband used to actually laugh that literally I paid her to spend time with me because we would go shopping and I would get my time and she'd get gifts. So no, mine is time. And in fact, I had the two of the Arizona grandkids were in town in California this weekend, and we went to the beach and we did a couple different things. And my grandson was like, all he wanted to do was sit on the floor and play Play-Doh. And so we spent 2 hours mixing colors and sitting on the floor. And for me, my love tank was 100% full having them spend that time with me.
Oh, that's awesome. Sharon, you have a question?
I do. We talk a lot about balancing work obligations and family time on this podcast. Other than finding time, which we all know is tough, what has been the most challenging thing you have found to being an active, involved grandma?
You know, I have this guilt factor that I get every once in a while because I used to be really tried hard to do these traditions and tried to do, like the Sunday morning donuts with grandma, whatever else. And so I think learning to have peace with yourself, to give what you can give and not have that guilt factor. I have Mima, who is my daughter's mother-in-law. I've had to learn to accept that she has the house. She has the house that we always go and we do Christmas parties now. It used to be mine, it's not anymore. And it takes a village to raise great children. It takes a village to have raise grandchildren, and just know there's lots of people that love them outside of me too.
I think that's a great attitude because I remind myself too, sometimes that you tend to get jealous of the in-laws and different things they have. And then I remind myself, what can be better than more loving people loving on my granddaughter?
You know what, Sharon, I have a Grandma Judy who's not related at all. And I can't wait until some of my grandkids grow up and they'd be like, now, how are these people related to me? But Judy was a friend of my husband's who just didn't have grandkids near her during COVID. And so she had called my daughter and said, hey, can we watch my granddaughter? And Rachel turned to me and she's like, should I do it or not? And I was like, yeah, just whatever. And I've now fast forward, Grandma Judy is every Wednesday. Arizona granddaughter spends time with her, and she loves her and spends time with, and does her hair, and I get pictures from her. And at one point in time, she was referencing herself as grandma because I'm Teta. Teta is Egyptian for grandma, and so she referenced herself as grandma. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "Are you kidding? Like, I think that's great. Like, be the grandma. I'm Teta. It's cool. I got it. Totally fine."
Yeah, that's terrific. I also, like you, have always felt this guilt. For me, it's even Steven. I only have 2 kids, but with those 2 kids, everything had to be even. The types of birthday parties they had, if one had a big one, another one had to have a big one. The holiday, gifts. If I spent $25 more on one, I had to go back and get something $25 more on the other. Does it change at all when you have grandkids? Like, do you still try to, make sure they all have equal time or equal gifts, or, like you said, if, spending time with them, how do you create that equalness, or do you just have to give up on that the more you have?
My mother, who is a fantastic, she's a grandma of 22 and
Wow.
a great grandma of 9. So for her, I've watched her, and she's lots of life lessons. When I was in 8th grade and didn't make cheerleader, she said life's not fair. And so I've always kind of followed that life's not fair mantra. But what my mom did is for Christmas, she gave pajamas out to everyone, and then for birthdays gave experiences. And so I've kind of followed the same thing. I talk about time being my love language. All of the grandkids get shoes from me for Christmas. So that's how we keep it fair, is they get a pair of hiking shoes, because that's what I love to do, and a pair of tennis shoes. And then they all get some type of experience. And the experience may or may not be fair. Some of it may be, someone's going to Universal Studios because I know they're going to love it. And some of it may be, we're going to go look at lizards, which is something I did do this weekend. We went and watched lizards do push-ups. So that's how I try to keep it fair. We'll grow up and hopefully they'll think it's fair.
I love that idea.
And doing what they love to do. That's the kind of thing they're going to remember for sure.
And Sharon, when they get older, what's going to happen is they're going to do concerts with me. That's my plan. I got to get their parents to buy into that, but
That's awesome.
Let's hope they like your music, or
exactly.
Anyway,
or
to like it,
or she'll like their music.
Oh yeah. Specific to being a working grandma, I know you travel for your job a lot. And I used to deal with guilt there too, when I traveled a lot when I was raising my kids. How do you balance it all? Like, because you don't have as much time, what are some of the limitations that you have to deal with like travel or other things?
Yeah, I'm working for Ascension. We had a cyber attack on May 8th of this year. And for 39 days, I was working 18, 20 hours. And the problem with that is the month of May, I had a lot of things scheduled and planned. And so I wound up missing Mother's Day. I wound up missing my grandson's kindergarten graduation. I wound up missing my other grandsons, their preschool graduation. And some of that you have to just step back and know it's a moment in time. And that was really, really, really hard. Probably the two things I would say that I do most. One is the tradition of 4th of July is really important in our house. My husband was born in Egypt. And so that is one where we just love America. We just love America so much. And so I want the kids to have that love and that joy. And so no matter what, I'm not giving up that holiday. So even after I was coming out of this crazy work event and I was exhausted, I was tired, we kept 4th of July up. And so that's one, because again, we're a big family. I don't really own any other holiday. I own that one. The other one, and I just started this one up so we can do a 6-month check-in, is being pen pals. And I figured my daughters are all kind of flakes, and so they're not going to return. So I'm putting postcards in it with a stamped postcard that they could write me back. And we'll see if that works or not. But it's just trying to stay connected. It's keeping motivated, what I know is important to them. And we'll again, when they grow up, we'll see if that worked or not.
Well, you can do it from the road too.
Right, exactly.
Oh, and it's such an awesome idea. My mom actually did that with my daughter, and I didn't really think that much of it. And then when my daughter moved out, she took this big box of letters from my mom, and it was so heartwarming. And it had gone on since she was 4 years old and up, since she could basically write.
Oh, I love that so much. I had my great grandma, who kind of served as my grandma. She would write on her cards. She would write like all the kind of just special different things. Before she died, we used to, when I was at her house, we would sit and we would read a dream book. And in that dream book, we would talk about dreams, and she would teach me how to sleep. And because even as a young kid, I was an overthinker. And about a year before she died, she says, I'm not going to last for forever. What do you want in my stuff? And I said, I want the book. And she wrote in there, to my dear great granddaughter, Laura, and she wrote the whole thing. And she says, I will love you forever, and I will see you in my dreams. Love, great grandma O'Haver. And then it has the date on it. And I will tell you, one of my most prized possessions is that book. And if I were to have a fire, that would be the thing I would go grab. So I'm hoping that the grandkids will do the same thing. They'll have the box and they'll remember that and hang on to it for life.
Yeah, that's such a special memory you'll keep with each of them individually.
Do you have anything like that, Sharon?
You know what I started when I have one son and one daughter, and the daughter's the one that has given me a grandchild. And when my little granddaughter was born 5 months ago, I started this notebook called Letters from Grandma. So I just write memories I have of when she was born, things that happened, different things that have gone on. I put like the bridal or the baby shower invitation in there, different ways we announced the pregnancy, just all in one place so that I can give it to her when she turns 18 and kind of review like my view on her life kind of, and memories that were made.
Oh, 5 months old. What a fun age. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, such a sweet little girl.
Oh,
yeah, I remember my grandma, she loved to take pictures. So when she got much older, she's passed now, but she created photo albums for everybody in the family. And those photo albums were all the pictures she took from when they were infants all the way through like their marriages and stuff like that. And I have 2 that were assigned to me. I was the first granddaughter, so I think I got more.
Of course.
But I keep them. And like you, Laura, if we actually had to evacuate, and being in California sometimes with the fires, and I absolutely picked those 2 things up first.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so great.
Because it's not digital like it is now. But.
Yeah.
So you have a very unique experience. You have a found grandchild that you added to your family, I guess through 23andMe, you found this grandbaby. Can you share that experience and how the family's dealing with that big news?
Yeah. This is one of my favorites. So my kids actually call me the chief diversity officer is what they call. I had a friend of mine who was a vice president in Intel a couple of years ago who called and said, "Hey, I've got the perfect job for you." And she described this role, and it was chief diversity officer. And I was like, I'm so not qualified for that. And as we kept talking, I said, the only reason you say that is because you've seen my family picture, because we have just a diverse mix of all kinds of them. We are just the fun family. So my oldest daughter, she had a pretty tragic loss. She was pregnant with twin daughters and lost them at 20 weeks. And so she was really in a state where she just kind of just sad and kind of just, and we were all trying to, and she was trying to figure out if she could get pregnant or not. Her husband is 19 years older than her. And when they got together, he told her that he thought he had a daughter, and it turned out that it wasn't. And so she kind of, they're like, okay, so they're trying to get pregnant. Miranda, or my daughter, calls me, and and by the way, I got permission because I called her. I said, I'm sharing this story. Are you good? And she's like, yeah, I'm good. So she calls me in January when she's not supposed to be getting pregnant because she'd had some complications from the loss. And she goes, Mom, we have a situation. And I go, okay. And she says, my husband, she goes, was with a woman and I'm ready to kill him. I'm just ready to kill him. And she goes, 26 years ago. And I'm like, lead with that. Like, start with that. So she had wound up getting diabetes, and the man who raised her died during COVID. So she had to get some tests done. And with that, got into the database and realized that the man who raised her was not her dad. And so her mom said, the man who reached out to you on Facebook on your 18th birthday, that's probably your dad. And so they did the paternity testing and submitted through 23andMe. And I don't know how her mom thought raising her, she was not anything but his daughter. She is fantastic. She's a year younger than my daughter. And we just collected her and put her into the group. And because I am chief diversity officer, everybody's welcomed her in. She got shoes for Christmas that first year. And the fun part is Miranda's now pregnant. She's due on October 15th. And the other granddaughter, she gets married on October 25th. So she'll be getting, for her wedding present, she'll be getting a little brother. So it's just part of This Is Us, and it's part of our crew. That's what I call us. This is the word it's the crew. So
That's a great story.
That's amazing. Oh,
I know.
To cry.
Yeah, she's a good kid. Yeah, in fact, like I said, she is so much like her dad. She just this kind of, she loves music. She loves having a lot of music, and she recently she just got a promotion as a manager at a fast food store, and pretty proud of her. I'm proud to add her to our mix. So
that's awesome. How many children do you have?
Got 5 daughters. So the oldest is 33, the youngest is 21. And like I said, the 21-year-old, no grandkids there. I'm not sure she ever will be. My fear is that she's going to turn 35 and decide she wants to have kids, and I'll be 70 at that point in time. And I'm like, please don't do that. So that is my fear.
Or she'll be the favorite aunt.
Or she'll be the favorite.
A lot of families have that favorite aunt.
Yeah, she might be the favorite aunt right now anyways. She's pretty cool. She's a cool kid.
Yeah.
And of your 5 daughters, how many of them do have children?
4 of them do. Well,
okay.
Yeah, 4 of them do. And they all, I'll tell you, one of the things is they're so different. And I don't know if you guys have this experience or not. They're so different in the way that they raise their children. My sister gave me a fake book, and the name of the book was How to Raise Adult Children. And it says, roll out the welcome mat and shut the F up. And that's kind of what I've done. Is the kids that come over, they all have, some of them self-regulate and have, the kids don't have a bedtime. Some of them are very stern on it. Some they get 4 strawberries, 2 crackers, and 1 peanut for dinner. And the other one, they're like, eat whatever you want. So we just have to respect each of their styles. I'm not sure sometimes who raised my girls. So
that's funny. We were just talking about that exact same topic in our last episode, and we called it zipitability, where you just shut your mouth and let it go on.
Oh, I love that. I'm totally taking that one from you.
Yeah. Demonstrate strong zipitability.
Zipitability. I love it. That's funny. Oh my gosh.
That's great. What else, Sharon?
Laura, since you do have multiple grandchildren spread out over the years, how have you found your grandparenting style has changed from your first grandchild to your newest grandchild?
When I had my oldest daughter was born, I remember thinking I was super mom and I can do it all, and I was exhausted. My sister-in-law came over and said, hey, let me watch the baby. And I was like, no, I got it. She said, no, just go take a nap. And I went up taking about a 4-hour nap, and it may have been the best sleep of my life. And as I mentioned earlier, time is my favorite thing, my gift, my love language. So I have given that gift to all of my girls, is letting them sleep and watching the children. And so that's one I would say hasn't changed. I have, for all of them, they it's within the first week, I'm coming over, have a full night, you sleep, you do your thing. I had with my oldest grandson, who will be 7 in December, I took him every Thursday night. And this is what I probably will do different, I am doing different now, is he'd come over Thursday night, he'd spend the night, she would get a whole night to herself. After we have twin boys, when the twin boys came, that was too much to do that. It became kind of exhausting. So I do more of a, once a month, let's have a sleepover, or let's have a couple things there. I think the other thing that's changed is setting limits with my daughters. When I lived in Arizona and I had the party house and everyone came over, I was spending all day Saturday doing my chores. They'd come over on Sunday. My girls would sit on the couch on their phone because either with grandma time, I'm cooking, doing whatever, and then they'd leave and I'd clean the house. And it really was exhausting for me. So I sometimes joke that I love being the out-of-town grandma. That's not true, because I wish I was there all the time. But when I'm the out-of-town, I don't have the house to clean, and I don't have the chores to do, and I don't feel the guilt of having to be super grandma, because I parent pretty much the same way that I grandparent pretty much the same way I parent. So that's what I do different, is setting the limits and letting them be the mom I don't need to be.
Great advice. That's a good tip for all grandparents trying to juggle multiple grandchildren, for sure.
It's funny. I don't know if you guys listen to Julie Dreyfus's podcast.
Yes,
She's
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I don't know if you heard the one where she was with Jane Fonda.
The other podcast we listened to is there's sports anchors, and it's called Calm Down, I think.
Yes, that is the title.
Yeah, and they were talking about that episode actually, and how Jane Fonda said the advice she would give herself, when she was 18, is know when to say no.
Yeah.
Just say no, because
Yeah.
we all oh yes, we'll do that. Oh yes, we think it's going to help our career. Oh yes, we're going to, do everything you want in the house, plus take care of the kids, plus do all this stuff. So I think the power of no is really important.
That power of no.
And it
Yeah,
sounds
that
like you've kind of learned that, you're
Well,
learning that over
it's funny as you're talking through that, honestly, because I love having powerful women in your circle, whether it's people or the LinkedIn circle or whatever it happens to be. And I think actually listening to that podcast as you're talking is when I started drawing some of my no's, which was I can't do it all. I mean, I used to be, I'm not in Arizona, I'm not in California, I'm never anywhere. And it was like, okay, I'm going to be very clearly, I'm in Arizona a week of the month. And that works most of the time. The rest of the time I'm in California or I'm traveling for work, and draw my limits that way. So that's how that works.
Yeah. So you had mentioned earlier you had all girls, all daughters.
All daughters.
Now you have quite a few grandsons. I think the majority of your grandkids are grandsons. So I was speaking with somebody at a party the other night, and they said that was the biggest challenge for them, is bonding with their grandsons, because they raised all daughters. Did you find that to be the same, or have you done something that is different so that you can make sure you have that bonding with them?
It's interesting. I only wanted daughters. And in fact, my youngest, and I used to work in radiology. I still have my radiology license, but that was, I got it ultrasound, and there was probably 5 or 6 times that they told me it was a boy, and I willed her to be a girl because I did not want to raise a boy. And so when my first grandson comes along and it's a boy, and I was like, oh, okay. And then we wound up and it's a boy, and it's a boy, and it's a boy, and it's a boy. So yeah, what's fun with the boys is they do love to get on the ground and play. And in fact, what I had the oldest and his twin brothers were over in California in the March timeframe. And I don't really have age appropriate toys for boys. I have cars and whatever. So I got this blue tape, and I was making like trails for them to go on. And I put wine corks on the floor. That was their obstacle, and they're going over the top of it. And we had more fun than you could imagine. It was like cheap, free toys, and they loved it. So it is different for sure. I'm not sure that I could, and here's another one. My California grandson, I take him to go to the koi pond all the time because he loves to feed the fish. And he turns to me and says, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. And I'm thinking, oh, geez, I've never taken him to the bathroom. I mean, I've taken some of the other, and I said, well, do you want me to take you? Do you want me to go with your dad? And he goes, oh, we can go. And I'm like, okay. So we go in the bathroom. I go, so do you stand or do you sit? And he goes, oh, I stand. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, I mean, some of those things I have to figure out as we go along the way. I didn't have to deal with that with girls.
That's funny. So what is your count of grandchildren as far as girls and boys?
Girls. So we've got, there are two girls, 3 with the found daughter. So there's 3 girls and 5 boys. And then the 6th boy comes in October.
Well, you do. You are boy heavy for sure. And
Right? I don't know how that happened.
that's karma for not wanting him as
I
children.
know. But I'll tell you what, they're the most handsome boys in the world. I
Oh,
the Arizona grandsons all have curly hair, and one of them looks just like his dad, and the twins look like my husband's dad. And they're handsome and they're polite and they're kind. I tell the kids all the time, those are the three things that you need to be. So and smart's good too, but polite and kind comes first.
well, and it's kind of fun. You get the experience of seeing boys being raised so firsthand, where you just raised girls.
Right, exactly. It's kind of fun.
Experiencing all the firsts.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Laura, I think we are out of time. I so much appreciate you coming on. This was so fun. And I hope you'll join us again. Any last words, Sharon, before
I
we
just
wrap up?
very much appreciate your time and you coming on and being our first guest. We were so excited about that, and it lived up to all expectations. So thanks again.
Awesome. I can't wait to do a coffee in San Diego. So when I'm there, we'll schedule that. We'll make it
Looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll be on video that time.
awesome. Give your grandbabies loves.
And you
thank
do the
you.
same.
Okay, thanks. See you.
All
Bye.
right, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to the podcast so we can continue to grow our community. Also follow us on Instagram at Working Grandmas Podcast, on Facebook at The Grand Balance, a Working Grandmas Podcast, and join our LinkedIn group, Working Grandmas. You can also email us at info@workinggrandmas.com or message us through any of our social media platforms.